Kamayeshaha Krodhayeshaha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhi Yenamiha Vairinam. Bhagavan Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, there is one great enemy that we should all conquer. That great enemy is Kama, or desires towards material objects. That Kama, when it is not fulfilled, will transform into anger or Krodha, which is even more worrisome. That is because Kama can never be quenched. Suppose I have a desire to eat something. I can eat it today, I will still desire it the next day. I can eat more tomorrow, I will still want to eat something juicy. I can never say that by eating tons and tons of food, I have finally done away with my desire to eat good food. That is not possible. It is just as when there is a fire, I put more and more fuel into that fire and wish that by putting more fuel, I will be able to extinguish that fire. That is impossible. Similarly, Kama or desire for material objects is like a fire. The more and more you put into the fire, it is only going to grow, not going to be extinguished. Similarly, Kama will also not be extinguished easily. We have to adopt some other means to completely get rid of these desires. It is not possible to fulfill those desires and thereby extinguish them. This is even okay. When Kama becomes anger or Krodha, then the problem is that Krodha will lead us to do even great sins. Suppose when someone is angry, he loses sight of where the line is. There is a line which says this is dharma and this is adharma. To your elders, you can act in this manner, you cannot behave this manner. When you talk to someone, you can only use these parliamentary words, you cannot use these harsh words. All these lines are there. What Krodha does or what anger does is it smudges this line. We lose track or we lose sight of this line at all and we cross it very easily. The Purana says, Kruddho hanyat guru napi. When someone is angry, he does not distinguish between his foe and his friend, between his elders or his those younger to him, or even his acharya or disciple. One can go against even his own acharya out of anger. So, anger and desire, these two are great enemies that we must overcome. To understand this, we will see today about the story of Dhruva, who had done penance towards Bhagavan, attained great boons from Bhagavan, even the boon of reaching Sri Vaikuntham eventually, and then while he was in the samsara, he was afflicted by Kama and Krodha again and again. Finally, he was able to overcome them because of the preachings of great noble souls and acharyas. We will see what happened to Dhruva after his penance. In the last episode of this series, we saw how Dhruva was wronged by his father, how he got Narada's preachings, how he went to the forest and did penance about Bhagavan, how Bhagavan gave his darshan to him and bestowed him with great boons. Once Dhruva came back to his city, his father was very happy to see his long lost son. He made Dhruva as the king and he went off to the forest to do penance. Dhruva ruled over this world for 36,000 years. In fact, what was great about Dhruva was that he was very much attached to his brother Uttama. We saw earlier that Uttanapada was the father. He had two sons, Uttama and Dhruva. Dhruva became the king. Once when Dhruva was the king, his brother Uttama went to the forest. He went to the foothills of the Himalayas to do some hunting. He got into a fight with some yakshas there, and a yaksha, a very powerful yaksha who was living there, killed Uttama. Uttama's mother Suruchi went in search of her child and she too lost her life. Hearing about the death of Uttama and Suruchi, Dhruva was agitated to no end. That was because he was very much attached to Uttama. He was his own brother. Although he was a cousin once removed, he was not his own brother. Uttama and Dhruva were very close to each other. He was so close that once he learnt about Uttama's demise, this Dhruva was so angry that he wanted to vanquish all the yakshas. He wanted to kill all the yakshas in this world. Bhagavata Purana says, Dhruvo Bhratrivradham Shrutva Kopamarsha Shucharpitaha Jaitram Syandanam Asthaya Gataha Punyajanalayam. Punyajanaha refers to the Yakshas. The Yakshas were living in their own city. The Kubera was the head of the Yakshas. Once Dhruva learnt about the demise of his brother, Bhratru Vadham Shrutva, he learnt how his brother had been killed by a Yaksha. Immediately he was overtaken with grief and overcome with anger also. Out of that anger, he got on his great chariot, amassed a great army and went towards the city of the Yakshas in order to fight with them. The Yakshas were 130,000 warriors in number. Dhruva, even though he was alone, was able to fight with all of them. He was such a great warrior. So Dhruva was fighting with all the 130,000 Yakshas and he was able to vanquish many of them. So the Yakshas did not know what to do. So finally, the Yakshas with their magical powers created an illusion. Nepetuhu gaganadasya Kabandhani agratonagha sasrujuhu tigma gatayaha asurya mayayasuraha. The Yakshas are capable of doing magic. So using their magical powers, they created an illusion around Dhruva. Suddenly, the sky became dark. It was filled with smoke and bodies started to fall. Dead bodies, corpses started to fall down from the sky, and there were many weapons that were falling. There was a mace, there were bows, there were axes, there were swords. All these were falling down from the sky. There were a lot of snakes that were crawling around Dhruva. There were rivers of blood that were flowing everywhere. All this was an illusion that was shown to Dhruva by the Yakshas in order to get rid of his conviction and in order to make him afraid, and so that he can be turned away from attacking them. They were able to attain what they wanted also. Dhruva was really afraid and he didn't know what to do. At that moment, a few sages who were witnessing this immediately came to Dhruva's aid. Dhruva was a very great devotee of Bhagavan. Although he was overcome with anger now, that anger was caused by his affection towards Uttama. So his kama or his desire or his affection to Uttama later turned on or transformed into anger towards the Yakshas, and out of that anger he was taking part in a war or battle now. But the rishis who were witnessing this knew the greatness of Dhruva. They did not want a devotee of Bhagavan to go waste. They did not want him to suffer. Therefore, those rishis came to Dhruva and they gave very good advice. Auttana pade Bhagavanstava Sharngadhanva Deva Kshinotu Avanata Artiharo Vipakshan. They said, Dhruva, why are you being afraid? Again, pray to Bhagavan. He is the one. Pranata Avanata Artiharaha. Avanata, those who prostrate towards Bhagavan. Arti is whatever distress or sorrow that they feel. Haraha, Bhagavan is able to remove all their sorrow. He is the one who removes the sorrow of all those who surrender to him. Therefore, you must also surrender to Bhagavan. You must pray to him that he delivers you from this problem. Yen namadheyam abhidaya nishamya chadha lokaha anjasa tarati dustaram anga mrityum. The Rishi says, just by chanting Bhagavan's name, people are able to cross, or they are able to overcome death itself. We can think how this is possible. Thondradippudi Alvar in his Prabandham called Thirumalai is also singing about this. Kavalil Pulanai Vaittu Kalidhannai Kadakka Paindu Navalit Tudaruhennom Namantamar Talaigal Mide Moovula Hundumunda Mudalva Nin Namam Katra Avalippu Udamakandai. Thondradippudi Alvar says, if till yesterday, before Thondradippudi Alvar became a Bhakta, he was afraid to even look at Yamadharmaraja and his servants, because he knew that for all the mistakes that he had committed, he is definitely going to go to Naraka. But now, Thondradippudi Alvar says, if Yamadharmaraja or his servants come in front of me, I will make them bow their heads, I will keep my feet on top of their heads and walk all over them. He says, Moovala Hundumunda Mudalva Nin Namam Katra Avalippu. I have now learnt about the greatness of your divine names. I am chanting your names all the time. Now the strength that those divine names have given me, Our Alvar says, Navalittu Ududaruginnom Naman Tamar Talehal Meede. I will laugh aloud and I will keep my feet on top of the servants of Yama and I will walk all over them. That is because the names or the divine names, holy names of Bhagavan will give us that strength, will give us that power that we can even overcome death. The rishis say, when the names, mere names of Bhagavan can help someone overcome death, if you pray to that Bhagavan himself, he will definitely deliver you from this problem. This illusion that the yakshas have created should not agitate you. Please be calm. Please pray to Bhagavan. Immediately Dhruva understood what they were saying. He was praying to Bhagavan. He took the Narayana Astra. He kept it on his bow. And once he kept the Narayana Astra on his bow, thousands of golden arrows started swinging out of it, and it removed the illusion everywhere. And again, once the illusion was removed, Dhruva went back to his old state of anger. We must think what has happened here. He was connected, he was very affectionate towards Uttama. When he learnt of Uttama's death, he became angry. Out of this anger, he was fighting with all the yakshas. The yakshas created an illusion. The rishis came and advised Dhruva to again think about Paramatma, do meditation about Paramatma, so that his problem now, the illusion that he was seeing which was causing him to be afraid, that illusion has to be removed. Once Dhruva did meditation and that illusion was removed, he should have continued that meditation. Once we learn that Bhagavan is so great that even thinking about him will remove all our sorrows, we must immediately opt to thinking about him all the time, and we should want to attain mukti and be with him always. But Dhruva did not realize that. He only wanted to meditate towards Paramatma so that the immediate obstacle that he was facing could be removed. He did not meditate about Paramatma to attain salvation. He wanted Paramatma to help him overcome his foe or overcome his obstacle, that is all. So once the illusion was removed by the Narayana Astra, Dhruva again continued to fight with the yakshas and killed thousands and thousands of them. Uttanapada's father, who was Swayambhuva Manu, was witnessing all this from afar. He realized that his grandson was doing something very wrong. Swayambhuva Manu's son was Uttanapada. Uttanapada's son is Dhruva. So Swayambhuva Manu was looking at his grandson killing thousands and thousands of yakshas, although none of them had done anything wrong. One yaksha had killed Uttama. If Dhruva was to be angry, he should punish that single yaksha alone, not the whole yaksha community. So Swayambhuva Manu immediately appeared in front of Dhruva and said, Nayam Margo hi sadhunam Hrishikesha Anuvartinam Yad Atmanam Paragrihya Pashuvatu Bhuta Vaishasam. He said, this is not something that a devotee should do. Ayam Margaha Hrishikesha Anuvartinam Na. Those who claim to be devotees of Hrishikesha or devotees of Lord Sriman Narayana must not opt to violence at all. This is not the right path for them, because violence is something that we do or we take part in when we do not distinguish this Atma from this body. That is what Manu says. Yad Atmanam Parak Grihya. Parak means all the objects that we see around us. They are non-sentient objects, achit objects. The Atma is a sentient being. He is capable of knowing himself and knowing things around him also. The Atma is called Pratyak. But what we do, the delusion that we are all in, is that we think that this body and I, the Atma, are the same. So instead of realizing that I am different or distinct from this body, we think that we are this body. Therefore, when we want to punish someone, we opt to violence because we think that harming their body is going to harm them. It works both ways. We might think that any harm that happens to our body is going to kill us. That is also because of Deha Atma Abhimana, the delusion that the body and the soul are one. Similarly, when Dhruva is now fighting out of anger, what does he want to do? He wants to kill all yakshas. What are yakshas? They are jivatmas. The jivatma cannot be killed by any number of arrows that Dhruva uses. Only the body of the yakshas can be killed, can be destroyed. But Dhruva did not understand this. He is not in his angered state. He has lost track of the distinction between the Atma and the body itself. So he says, Paragrihya Pashuvatu Bhuta Vaishasam. You are killing people by the thousands like an animal. An animal will not be able to distinguish between the soul and the body. But we are sentient beings, we are humans who should be able to, Bhagavan has given us the faculty or the senses to understand that the body and the mind are different. But oh Dhruva, you have not understood this. You are killing people out of anger, thinking that you are going to punish the yakshas. You are only killing their bodies. You cannot do anything to the Atma who killed your brother. But you are killing thousands and thousands of bodies of Atmas who have done nothing wrong at all. So even as a king, you are not doing the correct thing. You are punishing others for something they have not done at all. Even as a devotee, you are not doing right by your standards because you have not understood the distinction between the soul and the body, and you are killing bodies by the thousands. So Manu stopped him. He said, Titikshaya karunaya maitriya cha akhila jantushu samatvena cha sarvatma Bhagavan samprasidati. Here Swayambhuva Manu gives another mantra for us to follow. In the earlier episode, we saw one mantra that it is not a mantra that you chant. It is something that you must live by. I am calling that a mantra. He said, when someone is inferior to you, be compassionate towards them. Someone is superior than you, be happy about it. Someone is your equal, want their friendship. That is what Narada told us to practice in our lives. Now Manu is giving us, he gave Dhruva some advice which is very important for us to know. He says, Titikshaya, bearing something, tolerating something, Karunaya, compassion, Maitriya, friendship, Akhila Jantushu, Samatvena cha, equality. These four things, if you are able to practice, tolerance, compassion, friendship and equality. Once you are able to practice these four in your lives, only this can make Bhagavan happy. No kingdom that you rule or how much ever wealth you shower on Bhagavan, that is not going to make him happy. If you treat everyone equally, if you think of them as your friends and not your enemies, if you are compassionate to those who are in trouble, and if you are able to tolerate all the hardships that come your way, then you are a true bhakta. Oh Dhruva, the whole world thinks that you are a bhakta. But what you are doing now out of desire and anger is going to remove you from that high pedestal itself. So please correct your actions. Do not go ahead with this fight. Stop right now. Sanyacha rosham bhadramte pratipam shreyasam param. Rosham sanyacha. Please get rid of this anger. Anger is against any improvement in your life. He says rosham shreyasam param pratipam. Pratipa means something that is to the other pole. It is completely against to any shreyas or betterment or improvement. So get rid of your anger. Shrutena bhuyasa rajan nagadena yathamayam. These words that I have told you, I hope that they would be like medicine applied on top of some injury. So just as the medicine is going to cure the injury, my Upadesha, I hope, is going to cure your anger. Once you have gotten rid of your anger, you will realize how a bhakta should act and you will stop this fight. Swayambhuva Manu gave this advice and went away. Dhruva thought about what his grandfather had said. He realized that what he was saying was true and immediately he put down his weapons. But he was now afraid to go approach Kubera at all, because he had killed thousands of yakshas. After killing so many of his people, of the dwellers of his city, if Dhruva went to Kubera and said, let us be friends, would Kubera accept that? If we go harm someone in someone's family and then go to the head of the family and say, let us be friends, he is not going to accept it. So Dhruva was now very afraid to go near Kubera at all, but Kubera came forward to Dhruva and he said, I am very pleased that you have gotten rid of your anger. He says anger or your enmity to someone is very hard to get rid of, but because of your grandfather's advice, you have now gotten rid of your anger. So Dhruva, if you want any boon from me, you can ask it of me. So Kubera is now coming to Dhruva and saying, I will grant you a boon. We won't understand this. He just now killed thousands of yakshas. Why would Kubera grant a boon to Dhruva? That is because Dhruva was a great devotee of Paramatma. He says, Varam vararhaha ambuja nabha padayoho anantaram tvam vayamanga shushruma. We have heard that you are a very close devotee of Bhagavan. Therefore, if you want any boons, I do not bear any ill motive towards you, ill feelings towards you. If you want any boon, you can ask it of me. When Kubera is offering a boon to us, what would we ask for? We could ask for endless material wealth. But now Dhruva had learnt his lesson. The last time when he did penance towards Bhagavan and beheld Bhagavan himself, he didn't ask for mukti or bhakti, he asked for material wealth. Now he has learnt from his mistakes. When Kubera asks or grants him a boon, Dhruva did not ask Kubera for money. He says, Harau savavre achalitam smritim yaya taratyayatyena duratyayam tamaha. He asked for never ending smriti of Bhagavan. He wanted his mind to be concentrating on Bhagavan, Lord Narayana all the time and never waver away from Bhagavan itself. That is because when someone has that strong smriti or concentration on Bhagavan, Bhagavan automatically grants mukti to him. He says, Ayatnena duratyayam tamaha tarati. Tamaha, this samsara is hard to cross. It is a very deep and vast ocean that is almost impossible to cross or go away from. But once we develop bhakti towards Bhagavan, then without any effort on our part, Dhruva says, Ayatnena. Yatna means effort. Ayatnena, without doing any effort on our own, Bhagavan will deliver us from this samsara. He will lift us towards Vaikuntham. So, any meditation or the bhakti that we develop is not the means to attain mukti. Bhakti is just a qualification. Once I am eligible, once I am qualified, without any effort on my part, Bhagavan will grant mukti out of his own compassion. Dhruva learnt this, and so he asked of a boon from Kubera that his conviction or his devotion to Paramatma should be unwavering at all points of time. Kubera also granted this. Dhruva came back to his kingdom, ruled his kingdom for 36,000 years, and finally, once he was done with it, he was no more interested in material things. He made his son as the king and he went off to Badarikashram in the Himalayas, the holy place of Badari. He went to Badari and he started praying there, started doing meditation, and he took a small idol of Bhagavan. Purana says, Thule dadhara bhagavat pratirupe yetadhyayans tadavyahito vyasrujat samadhau. Even though Dhruva was a great yogi, he was able to do meditation about Bhagavan and behold him directly. He still had an idol with him which he used to do archana and puja to. So we must understand that at no point of time does idol worship become unnecessary. Even if someone is a great yogi and I am able to look at Paramatma who is residing within me, I will not be able to do service to Paramatma who is residing within me. If I wanted to offer some fruits or I want to offer flowers or a garland, I need an idol who is there outside me. So Dhruva, even at that great spiritually enlightened state, had a small pratirupa, Bhagavat pratirupe sthule dadhara. He used to concentrate his mind on that idol which he carried with him. He used to do service to that Bhagavan and partake food only that was offered to him, and he continued his meditation in this way. One fine day, Bhagavan was ready to grant mukti to Dhruva. There was a huge vimana that came down from Vaikuntham. Sadadarsha vimanagryam nabhasovatara dhruvaha nanama namani grinan madhudvishaha parshat pradhano iti samhatanjalihi. A huge vimana with two divine purushas who were standing on it came down towards Dhruva. Once he saw these two messengers of Bhagavan, he didn't know how to invite them and how to do some upachara to them. So immediately Dhruva started chanting Bhagavan's names. Nanama, Namani, Grinan, Madhudvishaha. So we must also understand, if someone comes to our house and we don't know how to treat them or how we should take care of them, how we should service them, then you start chanting Bhagavan's names. You must offer them a seat. If you don't know that, start chanting Bhagavan's names. You don't know what to offer them, you don't know what they would like to eat or whether they need water or whatever. You start chanting Bhagavan's names. Chanting the names of Bhagavan is equal to offering all the services or all the great things that you must offer to a devotee. So Dhruva started chanting Bhagavan's names. Finally, he got onto that vimana. he left his body, he got on that Vimana, and through the Archiradi Marga, he attained Vaikunta itself. Trilokim Devayanena Sotivrajya Muninapi Parastadya Dhruvagatihi Vishnov Padam Athabhyagat. He finally attained the abode of Vishnu, Paramapadam, Sri Vaikuntham, and there he was eternally enjoying Bhagavan forever. So at the end of the story, we have learnt about how Dhruva, even though he was a devotee, was overcome with Kama and Krodha. Through the Upadesha of his Acharyas and grandfather and Rishis, he finally overcame his anger, and then he meditated about Bhagavan and attained salvation. Shuka at the end of the story says, Shantaha Samadrishaha Chuddhaha Sarvabhuta Anuranjanaha Yanti Anjasa Achyutapadam Achyuta Priyabandhavaha. Bhagavan is very affectionate towards some of his devotees. Who are they? If I want to be in the good books of Bhagavan, or I want Bhagavan to be crazy about me, what should I do? It is not puja to Bhagavan. Shuka says, Shantaha. You must always be calm, not perturbed by your desires. You must be content with what you have. Samadrishaha. You must view everyone equally. Shuddhaha. You must be clean in body and mind. Thinking, desiring other things, or prostrating to other deities is some blemish that is there in your mind. That should not be there. Shuddhaha Sarva Bhuta Anuranjanaha. You must be pleasing to everyone around you. Nobody around you should look at you and feel afraid. They must all be pleased when they see you. If someone is living in this manner, then he is very much liked by Bhagavan, and he will definitely attain Vaikuntham. This is what the story of Dhruva teaches us. We have learnt many things that we can also practice in our lives. Such hardships will definitely come our way in our lives also. We must think about these stories, what Narada said, what Manu said, what Dhruva thought about, how even after beholding Bhagavan, he did not ask for mukti because of his desire for material wealth. Then after enjoying material wealth for a long time, he realized that the feet of Bhagavan is the greatest prapyam or goal that we can have. We too must learn from each and every situation or instance that our ancestors have encountered. That is why the Puranas have been written. It is for us to learn about the pastimes or the encounters that elders have had, and how they reacted to it, and learn from it. I hope that we too will be able to practice what these stories from the Puranas have preached.